Welcome back to the 50 State Cold Case Spotlight, and today we are in Pennsylvania for day number 4, and I will be spotlighting the case of John and Madeleine Leonard. John and Madeline had 5 kids together, and 2 of them were twins, Deborah and Dolores, who now goes by Lori. They were raised in Cresco. The Leonard children say that Cresco was a community when you were growing up where everybody watched out for everybody. They went roller skating and to movies every Friday night. They thought it was a great place to grow up. Leonards were actually quite poor, but the kids say it wasn't something they really noticed. Lori, one of the twins, said, quote, "We grew up very poor, but when you're a kid, you can't tell the difference," unquote. When all 5 children were pretty young, their parents ended up getting divorced, and they stayed full-time with their father. Madeline moved close to Scranton and would come visit the children often. Her father, John, would take all 5 kids and move into a small attic apartment above a local bar owned by family friends Anna and Dick Mick. The Micks didn't just own this bar, they also owned a garage, a gas station, and a taxi service, and John did a little bit of everything for everyone at their business. At one point, he was a mechanic, a bartender, a taxi driver. John did whatever needed to be done. The twins described their father as hardworking, loving, and they truly thought he was the best dad in the world. And in 1970, their whole world would shatter. On September 8th, 1970, the twin girls remember playing around in the backyard when their father got a call around noon. He had been called in under the taxi service to go to Buck Hills Fall Lounge, located in Barrett Township, Monroe County, to pick up a customer who had requested to be picked up at the front entrance of the lodge and taken to Mountain Home a few minutes away from Barrett Township. Around 3:45 p.m., John would be found in the front seat of the 1966 black Plymouth 4-door sedan taxi cab with fatal gunshot wounds. The car was parked in the driveway of the lodge. Were called to the scene, and after looking at the scene and speaking to witnesses, they were able to determine that while John was driving up the driveway, he was approached by a white male, 25 to 30 years of age, wearing dark-rimmed glasses, a bright blue sports coat, and carrying a white paper bag that looked kind of like a shopping bag. The suspect then discharged 5 rounds from a .22 caliber weapon suspected to be a revolver through the open driver's side window, striking John. Detective Van Lavender would confirm that John died from multiple gunshot wounds. The autopsy revealed 2 small caliber gunshot wounds to the left side of the neck, along with 2 gunshot wounds to the rear of the left ear, and a 5th wound was discovered in the left posterior rib cage. Twins and their siblings were at the Micks' home when they were told about their father's death. They said first the nuns and priests showed up, and then the police chief. One of the twins, Deborah, said, quote, "We were just in zombie land because we were all in total shock," unquote. Investigators, along with family and friends of John's, couldn't understand why someone would want him dead. This included his ex-wife, Madeline, who was now determined to figure out who murdered her ex-husband. Madeline didn't hesitate for 1 second to pack everything up from Scranton and move to the apartment where John had kept the children full-time. Lori and Deborah both say that their mother was just as loving and kind and hardworking as their father. Despite John's death making huge headlines, there weren't many leads, and things were quiet as far as case updates for the next few years. It's now 3 years later, and the twins are now 15 years old, and their mother is working at a diner in Scranton. On February 22nd, 1973, after Madeline finished her shift at the Scranton diner around 10 p.m., she called home and spoke with her daughter Deborah and said, quote, "I have a tip on your dad. I'm going to Mount Pocono to check it out, and then I will be home," unquote. Deborah told her mother that she didn't want her to go by herself, but Madeline said that she was going anyway that night, and Madeline would not come home. The following morning on February 23rd, 1973, Deborah and Lori were in class at the Pocono Central Catholic School in Cresco when they were removed from class and brought to the office. When they arrived at the office, their little brother Timmy was already waiting for them. That's when they would be informed by police officers that there was a terrible accident and their mother Madeline had passed away at the scene. Detective Van Lavender said that 48-year-old Madeline had been discovered deceased as a result of a motor vehicle crash that occurred on SR 940 in Mount Pocono Borough, Monroe County. In the beginning, the family was initially told that Madeline and John's death were not connected. Chief Hartman, now deceased, was the one that came to the family home and told them that he believed that Madeline was run off the road and that it was definitely tied to John's murder. However, Detective Van Lavender would tell Dateline in 2023 that Madeline's case was not investigated as a homicide and that her death certificate lists her cause of death as a fracture of the cervical vertebrae. But the twins believe that their mother's death not being investigated as a homicide has been a huge mistake and that there is evidence that points towards foul play in Madeleine's case. According to the twins, Chief Hartman said that there were another set of tire tracks at the scene which led to the possibility that another car was involved in the accident. In addition to that, authorities at the time stated that there was a suspect who may have been at both scenes. Deborah said, quote, "He's the same person that was at the scene when our dad was murdered, and he's the same person at our mom's scene that called in the accident," unquote. Detective Van Lavender would reiterate to Dateline that he is not aware of evidence being presented that indicates foul play in Madeleine's death or any suspects named in her death. Detective Van Lavender goes on to say that John's case did have a specific person of interest, but that person is now deceased, and he did not know whether a connection between Madeleine and John's death was ever investigated. After their parents' death, the 5 children continued to live in the apartment above Mick's bar. Lori said at first the state wanted to split all 5 kids up and put them in different homes, but Anne and Dawn took them on as their own and took care of them and treated them just like they were their own. As the kids got older, they could not let go of the fact that they felt like both of their parents were murdered and neither of them got justice. So they set out to get answers on their own in 2022. They started investigating their parents' case and they found out more information in 9 months than the police did in 52 years. On August 2022, the twins said that they finally got a police report of their father's case and realized that there was an unbelievable amount of discrepancies, like the time of death. The coroner's report stated that it was 1:50 p.m., but the state police say it was at 2:45 p.m. There is also a sketch of a possible suspect that was never released until 2022 when the family requested the 900-page police report. Lori's husband, Randy, who jumped in to help Lori solve her father's case, told Dateline that they believe that the lack of answers and discrepancies in Madeleine and John's case were due to police negligence. Randy said, quote, "We feel like they were covering it up. They just didn't have the resource to set aside to do this," unquote. Detective Van Louder told Dateline, quote, "There is no physical evidence or corroborated information to indicate that there has been a police cover-up or any misconduct," unquote. The twins are not stopping. They are determined to get answers. Lori and Deborah, the twins, are the last remaining siblings. All their other siblings have passed of natural causes. Lori said, quote, "They're not here to get justice or get answers. We're the only 2 left, and we have to fight for it," unquote. The Pennsylvania Crime Stoppers is offering a reward of $5,000 for any information that leads to an arrest in John's case, and the Monroe County District Attorney's Office is asking for anyone who has tips about the death of John and Madeleine Leonard to contact the Monroe County District Attorney's Office at 570-517-3052. You can help the twins in their mission to finally bring justice to their family by simply sharing Madeleine and John's face and their case. Thank you so much for taking the time to get to know John and Madeleine today, and don't forget, when you see those missing and murdered posts on social media, to hit like and share, because every time you share a face, we get closer to solving a case. And I will see you guys back here tomorrow for the last day of Pennsylvania, day 5.